Can marijuana improve athletic performance? One thing that I might love even more than sports, or at least it's close, when you smoke the kind of stuff that Mike smokes now, the only thing that you want to eat are Doritos. There's a very good chance that cannabis would improve your life. More states where it's legalized. Eventually, it's going to be legal at the federal level, I think. I think there's a decent chance that it could help with athletic performance as well as what it might have been able to do for prime Mike Tyson. We will begin with a subject that is near and dear to my heart. In fact, two subjects that are near and dear to my heart. One, professional boxing and professional sports in general, and college sports for that matter. Youth sports. I just love sports. But one thing that I might love even more than sports, or at least it's close, is marijuana. I know you look at me, you think never ever would this man partake. But I have and I do, and another individual who is famous for doing this happens to be the former world heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. And he sat down and gave his thoughts on what he thinks marijuana can do for athletes and what it might have been able to do for prime Mike Tyson.
That little flower could prevent me from losing so much money and so much great play because people are dropping out. People want to smoke. That makes them, that relaxes them. That makes them tunnel vision. They could play better when they smoke their marijuana. It's just the truth. And I wish that I smoked when I was fighting.
Mike Tyson wishes that he smoked when he was fighting. It's hard to reconcile the way that you feel after smoking pot with the ferociousness of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, who famously once told an opponent that he wanted to eat his children. When you smoke the kind of stuff that Mike smokes now, the only thing that you want to eat are Doritos and maybe ice cream. And the kinds of things that I end up door dashing at 1 a.m. that aren't such a good idea. And I want to bring in Ronnie T-shirts in a moment. But before I do that, let's get into the topic here of, can marijuana improve athletic performance? I think that it can. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't even play one on television. But
You're
I
also
know
not
what
an
it's
athlete.
done for me. Well, you never saw me play wiffle ball, sir. You also never saw me making my way around the Caveland Par 3 with Marge Handy in the clubhouse as I was going out there and shooting 2-3 under par for 9 holes, Ron. So hold your judgment, sir. But I will say this, it certainly takes the edge off in a way that is a lot healthier than alcohol, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people who have discovered what marijuana can do. I always tell people there's a very good chance that cannabis would improve your life. I don't know exactly what that is for each individual person. Maybe it's somebody having 2.5 milligrams of a gummy that just levels them out a little bit or alleviates some of their anxiety, or relieving pain. Ron, for people who suffer with a lot of different physical maladies, marijuana is a natural pain reliever that just kind of loosens things up and allows them to perform in their daily life better. So if you're able to do that, I think there's a decent chance that it could help with athletic performance as well, especially for a guy like Tyson, whose problems were not physical. They were really mental and emotional. He was so worked up and so angry and so upset, and it's hard to be angry after you have smoked a lot of pot or you've taken some edibles. It really is. We hear about violent, angry drunks, people who get drunk and they're looking for trouble and they want to start a fight. People who are high don't do that. It's like, hey, we're like Wooderson. Why don't you come in here and sit down and let's watch some Scooby-Doo, man? Calm down. Tug McGraw, relief pitcher, as I told you, is the theme of the show today. And Tug McGraw was a source of wisdom during his career at various times. And when he was asked if he preferred grass or AstroTurf, Tug said, I don't know. I've never smoked any AstroTurf. Now, Ron, You and I have an opportunity that very few people do. Jim Savoca, Mr. AstroTurf, we both we own a swatch of Ohio Stadium AstroTurf. I guess that I could break some up and put it in a blunt and smoke it and see what happens. Although I don't think that would probably be to my benefit. One thing I can certainly tell you, yeah, it would not be good. I'm pretty sure. I love AstroTurf. Shout out to Gary Jones and my boys. You see the helmet sitting here on the desk every day. I'm an AstroTurf guy. I'm one of America's foremost proponents of AstroTurf. I don't think that I want to smoke it, however. Ricky Williams was smoking the real stuff. He was smoking grass, and he basically had the prime of his career taken away from him. And the more that marijuana becomes mainstreamed, the more states where it's legalized, eventually it's going to be legal at the federal level, I think. But as it becomes more and more not the taboo that we were all told that it was when Willis Jackson was holding a joint on an episode of Different Strokes, a very special episode of Different Strokes, it's going to get a little harder. It's like gambling in Pete Rose. You look at where we are as a culture, it's going to be hard to explain to people why Pete Rose was canceled because of gambling. And the same is true of Ricky Williams. Let's get that tweet back up here, guys. I want to read this one off because I remember Dame Lillard responded to this once, Ron. He said, for real, for real. Ricky Williams really got boned by the NFL, I wrote. Dude just wanted to spark a little weed for his anxiety while running for 1,000 every year. He got treated like he was fucking El Chapo. I call bullshit on that. The NFL owes Ricky Williams an apology. When NFL players can go out and get drunk and bust aluminum cans on their forehead and burp after their 12th beer, there can't be anything that's wrong with the guy who just wants to smoke up a little bit. Ricky Williams got absolutely screwed. And future generations are going to look back and they're going to wonder how a guy was made into a pariah, had to go to the CFL for the dirty, dirty sin of wanting to use a little bit of cannabis in his personal time. And with that said, I'm going to go to a man now who has never used cannabis during his personal time, or at least he's never smoked it. I speak, of course, of the international streaming star who joins me from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie, this is a topic that you and I have covered many times in our personal conversations because you know how I feel about marijuana. It's given me a lot of benefits. It's a part of my lifestyle. I am a virtually daily user of cannabis, and yet you have virgin lungs and virgin lips. Ron, tell me a little bit about your background. Were you ever tempted? Did you ever come close? Did you get a lot of peer pressure? Not counting the peer pressure that you get from me sometimes.
Right.
And what are your thoughts on the subject? Because, you know, you're a pretty with it, cool guy. And I was surprised when I learned that you had never smoked it even one time.
So I guess the first reason that I never smoked marijuana was it was just illegal. And like it or not, I feared my dad. Like I didn't fear the law, I feared my dad. And so that was probably the first reason that I never did it. And I don't ever remember a time thinking to myself, man, I wish I could just try this. I think smoking is one of the most vile things a person can do. And so just the thought of inhaling smoke, even if it wasn't cigarette smoke, it was a huge turnoff to me. And then, I don't know, it always seemed like everybody was just kind of mellow. And then I've just never felt like, oh, I want to mellow out. So later, like probably the last 25 years, maybe more, maybe a little less, I have absolutely no problem with marijuana anymore. I think it's so dumb that it's illegal. Alcohol is far more of a problem. It's far more poisonous. It causes far more problems with people, whether it's an indirect or directly causing the problem. I do now, and I don't know. So, I've told you I take gummies now. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times a week as a sleep aid. And so I don't even know, dude. The printing's so small on it, and I can't see anymore. I don't know what it says. Like, I don't know. Like,
You don't have
is
any
it
idea what you're putting
yeah,
in
I
your
don't
body.
know if it's the same. No, they just said, "Hey, this is good for sleep." I tried it. I'm like, "Oh my god, I slept through the night. This is pretty awesome." So I don't know like how similar or dissimilar it is to just smoking marijuana, but I will never smoke marijuana just because the thought of inhaling any type of smoke, it just seems kind of dumb to me. I don't look down on anybody that smokes marijuana at all. Lori's got some really chronic back pain, and I've gone into the CBD store and said, "Hey, what's the best thing for pain?" And she'll do that. I don't have a problem with it at all,
Ron,
other
it
than just
makes it makes
the
everything
smoke part of
better.
it. The smoke part of it.
It
It's
makes
just the smoke part
everything
of it.
better. Colors look better. Music sounds better. Things are funnier. Things that aren't even that funny suddenly become very funny. Food tastes better. Sex feels better. It makes everything better. Now, having said that, you can overdo anything. And there are people, if you're going to sit around and you're going to smoke all day, it's like anything else in life, Ron. It can be used in a way that becomes a negative. If somebody's just flat out just going to blaze all day, every day, their
Accomplish
motivation's probably
nothing.
not going to be very
Right.
high. They're going to accomplish nothing. They're going to do themselves more harm than good. So I will say, and when I say you're a nerd, I'm fucking kidding.
I'm
To
I
each his own, man. And I know you wouldn't give a shit anyway, but
no.
to each his own. Like if somebody doesn't want to, I'm not gonna twist their arms. But yeah, I mean, look. Speaking of marijuana, everybody who is a Yankees fan should be provided a complimentary joint whenever Aaron Boone goes to the bullpen, because the Yankees are going to make the playoffs. They might even end up winning the AL East, but it is not going to be thanks to the disaster that has been the Pinstripers bullpen this year. The most recent evidence of this, Ron, is on the screen before you here. Tuesday night in New York against the Detroit Tigers, the Tigers put up a 9-spot in the 7th inning to roll past the New York Yankees, and Devin Williams wasn't even involved in this one. The Yankees, I have never seen a team. The Yankees have 4 closers, and yet they have no closers. They've got Bednar that they brought in from Pittsburgh. They've got Doval, who they brought in from San Francisco. They got Luke Weaver, who was the closer for a minute earlier this year. And they got Devin Williams, the guy that they brought in with a 183 career earned run average, who has proceeded to lose the job, get it back, and lose it again. The Yankees have had some of the worst bullpen work from a good team that I've seen in a long time, and it's a minor miracle that they're still well positioned where they are in the standings, Ronnie. But it's a frustrating thing as a fan when your starting pitcher comes out, has a good outing, you hand it over to guys who are being paid to be entrusted with that lead, and then they start coughing it up all over the place night after night.
I'm sure that's how a quarterback feels about his place kicker on a football team, right? Drive the team down the field, 37 seconds, 82 yards. Dude, I just need you to kick a 37-yard. I don't know if my math was right there. Just kick this field goal. It's almost an extra point, and then he misses it. So
what was it? What
it's
was
the
it?
same
Peyton
thing.
Manning called Vanderjag a few years ago.
Idiot kicker.
Idiot kicker.
Idiot kicker.
Idiot kicker. Yeah. The rest of us are, well, except for the punter and a few other people, the rest of us are playing real football. And we got to wait for, some guy to come in and miss one wide right or doink one off of the upright. Ronnie, it is relief pitcher day here on the program. So I'm going to go through some of the greatest hits in the history of Super 70 sports. As you can imagine, through the years, I have certainly taken on the subject of relief pitching a number of times. And there is Mattel Baseball. Look at that sweet bastard. And that pitcher never needed a reliever, Ronnie. He was just pounding the strike zone all day long with those red blips, one after another. No bullpen necessary. He was like Nolan Ryan in red blip form, this guy. And that's an underrated Mattel game, by the way. The football games get so much love.
Yeah, I don't remember
But that
playing that. I'm
baseball
sure I
game
did.
Was fun.
Yeah, I don't
It was
remember
fun,
playing it.
bro.
I'm sure I did, but yeah, football, I was just all consumed with football.
I remember playing that in the back seat, hanging out with my buddy Jay that I mentioned on the show yesterday. We were going to see the Harlem Globetrotters in Greensburg, Kentucky at a high school. And I think it was 1979. And we killed the time on the trip playing Mattel baseball in the back seat. So a lot of fun memories of Mattel baseball.
You realize, Ricky, and I thought about this yesterday with a couple things. You've been preparing your entire life for this. Like nothing I've ever seen. No, and I'm not trying to be funny. Like it's just like, it's almost like you knew you were going to be the Super 70s guy when you were 9 years old. And you're like, I gotta start preparing now. It's crazy.
It is a real Cinderella story that I found a way to take what was really an irresponsible usage of thousands of hours of time in my formative years.
Yes.
And managed to flip it to my advantage. And there's Charlie Brown there, career 54.88 ERA. Motherfucker's getting his clothes knocked off. He's getting banged around so much by everybody. Never let anybody else pitch. Ever. This motherfucker never won a game. Career records, 0-800. Maybe somebody out there. Snoopy couldn't have taken the ball and gone out there and won one. He was their best hitter. I would have let Lucy pitch once in a while. Let's try something out here, Chuck. We just lost again. Man, I miss the days of relief pitchers who look like this. Sparky Lyle, Ronnie, who wrote The Bronx Zoo, which was one of the best tell-all baseball books. He looks like a wanted man from the Wyoming territory. He looks like he should be on a poster outside of a saloon, being perhaps hotly pursued by Wyatt Earp or somebody. He looks like he's from Tombstone.
I mean, it's great. It's great reliever name, though. Sparky Lyle. What a reliever name. Like, he couldn't have been anything else. He had to be a great reliever. Yeah.
He used to like to pull his pants down and set on cakes, is what the legend has it. So don't invite Sparky Lyle to your next birthday party, would be my advice. But if he did come to your next birthday party, there's a pretty good chance that he might arrive in this. And yes, he did pitch for the Philadelphia Phillies for a while. So that segue works on multiple levels, Ron. And I can't make it any simpler than this. Bring back bullpen carts, please. Can we do that? We got 43 pitching changes a game. Let's at least bring back the bullpen carts where it's a cap. I will also accept a pinstripe Toyota Celica as well. I hope that Goose Gossage remembers to give his Uber driver 5 stars before he goes in to secure the final outs of the game there. Look at that ride, Ron. Just tooling around the Bronx,
you just hit on something.
Bastard would have been a good time.
Dude, you just hit on something because you know me, I'm marketer, sponsor, business guy. What an amazing opportunity to make some more money, right? Just have a local car dealership sponsor bringing them in and wrap the car all fun.
Low-hanging fruit, Ron.
Low-hanging.
It's low-hanging fruit, man. Why wouldn't you do it? Bullpen carts are awesome. Everybody likes bullpen carts. Or do something. Have a boat.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, Ron, the Mariners, look at this. The Mariners used to send their relief pitcher to the mound on the fucking USS Mariner. Or whatever the fuck that thing is. Look at that. It's got the fire department thing on it. Look at 39 sitting there.
Looks like a float from a small town parade.
I don't care who you are. We should all be able to agree. let's bring back that boat for the Seattle Mariners. Or, in some cases, perhaps the usage of a boat might go against a relief pitcher's personal faith, Ron, as in the case of Major League Baseball's first Amish closer, Jim Kern of the Texas Rangers here. Out of respect for Jim, the Rangers didn't phone down to the bullpen because, using a telephone would be against his religion. They just yelled down there really loudly, kind of like me yelling at my cat moments before the show started today, Ron. Jim!
Shut up,
Jim! Jim, we need you. And then he comes to the mound on a horse and buggy. I would believe, Ron, would be his method of transportation to the mound. My method of transportation right now for everybody here is the eagle that flies high each day, Ron, when I tell everybody that it's time for America's Poll of the Day, and let's go to it now. It's Super 70 Sports on X, where the eagle flies high, higher than Mike Tyson wishes that he was back in the 1980s. Maybe if he had been burning a few, he would have beaten Buster Douglas, Ron. I don't know. It might seem counterintuitive, but it seems like Mike has some thoughts on that. Here are the options that the eagle has extended to us from its freedom talons today. Staying on topic, as Tim likes me to do, we're going to start with bullpen carts. Yeah, that's right. Or boats, or cars. I think if you're in favor of any of those things, that is your choice today. Second, we've got dominoes. Well, the best thing I can say about it is it's pizza. Third, we have Alice in Chains, the popular alternative act, I believe out of Seattle, back in the early 1990s, along with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and other such legendary bands, Soundgarden. And then lastly, a place that I once worked, Ron, a 90s video store. Break it down for me, as only you can.
Well, I basically just told you how I felt about bullpen carts. So, yeah, they were awesome, and they do need to bring them back, but use it as a source of income for these teams. Domino's, I got to tell you, Domino's doesn't make me mad. Like, it's never going to be like, oh, gosh, I'm craving Domino's right now. But there are times, there's a Domino's about 7 minutes from my house, and I think it's $6.99, $7.99. I can get a large pizza. I'd be back home in under 20 minutes. And I don't think that it's bad. Like, especially they got the garlic on the crust now. Like,
all of the things. I would just like to point out all of the great things that you have shat upon in the history of America's Poll of the Day. And yet you sit here before me now defending Domino's.
Dude, if you would have put up like Little Caesars, I would have shat on them. But I just, listen, what am I? I'm honest. I tell you what I think. And I don't care what the blowback is, and I don't care if I get flowers. I don't care if I get punched. It doesn't. I just tell you what I think. Domino's in a pinch, it's not bad at all. Listen, I'd rather have Domino's than DiGiorno, right? So it's right by my house.
I would rather have DiGiorno.
What's that?
I would get DiGiorno, Ron.
Really?
I would get the frozen pizza. Yeah, I would. I like Papa John's though. I could probably say a lot of the kind things that you just said about Domino's if we were talking about Papa John's. So I like
Alice
my bad
in
pizza
Chains, I don't ever choose to listen to them, but I actually really like Alice in Chains. Like, I love the song Rooster.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like Alice in Chains. 90s video stores. I mean, man, what a process the video store was. You know, it'd be a Friday night, and you'd go in there and you would just roam around just looking for that. It's funny because it's just like what I do now on freaking my TV. I'll spend an hour and a half trying to find something to watch until I finally find something, and then I'm tired. But yeah, roam around the store, find what you want to watch, maybe be crazy and get 2 or 3 movies. And so 90s video stores were great. Ricky, I'm going to go though from that list. I'm going Domino's.
Wow, I did not see that coming. Let's bring in producer Tim real quickly. Ronnie's catching me by surprise here a little bit today, Tim. voting for Domino's.
Yeah.
You see the options that are before you today. How do you break it down?
He's such a connoisseur. I'm surprised by that, Ron.
Again, I said it was in a pinch. I would never be my choice of, hey, I want Domino's
I
tonight.
thought that you would consider yourself to be above it, Ron. I thought you were going to be a little too good for it.
Oh gosh,
You
no. Some of my favorite places around here are places where I can get a meal for $12 and they're kind of dingy inside. No, not at all.
Ron,
More
I mean
vacations,
it. I
motherfucker.
mean it with a ton of affection. If you had grown up seeing the Yankee bullpen car, I think you would have gone for it. It was a Datsun at one point, and we got fooled. We actually around town, believe it or not, you could actually buy a version of the Celica back in '79 and
Pinstripe
'80.
version?
Yes, yeah, it was
That's kinda cool.
it's for $8,000, $9,000, and we got fooled as kids. We thought it was the actual car, and you'd figure out. But hard for me not to go bullpen cars. Just such nostalgia, and really, what's more American than that? Here comes your automobile, bringing out your lazy ass pitcher who hasn't run, I don't know, 100 feet in however long.
Oh,
But
it's
they're never.
uniquely American. It
Yes,
is uniquely
so
American.
incredibly. They're never going to bring it back. It'll slow it down. But I think the marketing guy and you, I can understand why. So, but good stuff, Ricky.
All right. For me, look, bullpen carts, I wouldn't have tweeted about them so many times if I didn't have a genuine affection for that. And as I said, man, look, I don't know, put a good motor in them. It doesn't have to slow things down.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, let them zip out there at 35 miles an hour through the outfield, as far as I'm concerned. Domino's is at the bottom of the barrel for me. One of my daughters loves Domino's, so we will get it sometimes, and I will eat it because, again, you know what they say about bad pizza.
There is
Even
none.
bad pizza is usually pretty good, right? So I'm not going to turn down Domino's. Alice in Chains I saw in concert a couple of years ago. Of course, Lee Staley, Super Sky Point, but Jerry Cantrell, and I can't remember the new guy's name, but they put on a really nice show. I was impressed. My 19-year-old is a pretty big Alice in Chains fan, so I've gained some appreciation for them. And then 90s video stores, guys. All I can tell you is I made $4.35 an hour, and one time I had to rewind "Blow Your Own Horn" too. So
Wow.
I'm not going to vote for that.
Love
I'm
to
gonna
hear
vote
that
for
story
bullpen
sometime.
carts. Well, Ron, it's been told on the show.
I know, Ricky.
So we won't. I thought maybe you were in, Paris when I told that story. All right. Bullpen carts are going to win. Oh, no, they're not.
No.
Hang on a second.
Video stores.
I misread that. I read that as 23% for some reason. I probably should go to Pearl Vision Center soon. Video stores holding an almost 2% lead over bullpen carts. Alice in Chains, a very respectable over 25% third place. And Domino's, thank goodness that common sense is prevailing among the Super 70s nation, just below the Mendoza line at 9.5% there. So we'll keep an eye on it. But I don't know, man. Bullpen carts, I was hoping that this would play off of a victory for bullpen carts on relief pitcher day, but throw up a hand out there, my friends, if you still associate Rolaids with Goose Gossage and Bruce Sutter, because there are a lot of us who do. That was a very effective partnership for Rolaids back in the day.
I actually have some Rolaids right here.
Well, you know what? I happen to have a guy on the program today who is the winner 2 times of the National League Rolaids Relief Man Award. He's got the trophies with the fireman's hat to prove it. And I sat down with him earlier today. My guest today pitched 21 years in the major leagues. His 1,119 games pitched are the most in the history of the National League, and his 424 saves rank 7th all time in Major League history. It's my pleasure to welcome to the program one of the greatest relief pitchers to ever work a ninth inning, John Franco. John, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, John, appreciate having you on. I've been a fan of yours since the 80s. I grew up in Kentucky. So
Oh, okay.
Riverfront Stadium was the one ballpark that I got to go to when I was a kid, and I well remember when you came up, the days of you and Ted Power back in the era. I remember in '85 going to a game. I got Nolan Ryan's autograph that night, and I had the program for years and years. You and Ted Power on the cover. So I've been a fan for about 40 years, John. So take me through the beginning here. I mean, we all know you as one of the greatest relief pitchers in history, but as with just about every relief pitcher, you don't start out as a relief pitcher. You know, you were drafted in '81 out of St. John's by the Dodgers, and you were a starting pitcher in college. You threw 2 no-hitters during your freshman year at St. John's. Can you kind of take me through the process of how you got converted into a relief pitcher in pro ball and what that transition was like for you?
Sure. So obviously in A ball, I was a starting pitcher, double A starting pitcher. And then when I got to triple A, I was a starting pitcher. And I would really, I was a full force guy. Like by 5-6 innings, I would tire out. I'm not a big frame guy, but I was a high energy guy. And they made the move in Albuquerque when I was with the Dodgers. I was in the Del Crandall and Brett Strom, who was the pitching coach at the time, moved me to the bullpen. And then once I got traded to Cincinnati, I was still starting pitcher. I went back from the bullpen to starting again in Cincinnati. And I was in Indianapolis at the time. And during the course of the year, again, I was a full throttle guy, 5-6 innings. I'd go, all I could give. And by the 7th inning, I would get a little tired. And right now, if I pitch 6 or 7 innings, I'd make millions of dollars in the big leagues. So, that's a fight. That's a quality start. But towards the end of the Indianapolis season, the Reds had a number 1 pick named Ron Robinson, who was a starter, and they converted me to the bullpen, which was fine because I had the type of arm where I could throw every day. I had some Fred Norman, who was our roving and pitching instructor at the time. He did both relieving and starting, and he kind of helped me out to make that adjustment. And then the following spring, I went to camp with the Reds. Had a really good spring. Didn't make the team out of camp, which I thought I should have, but they sent me to Wichita. That's where our AAA was at the time, where we moved from Indianapolis to Wichita the following year. And I was in the minor leagues for about 2 weeks and got the call up to say that Bob Ochinko, who was a left-handed reliever, had a bad back, and Bill Shear, who was the other reliever, had gotten shingles. So they called me up to the big leagues on April 24th, and I was in the bullpen ever since.
So you came up April 24th, as you said, your major league debut, and for about 4 months, your manager was Vern Rapp. And in August, something happened that sent a jolt of electricity through the entire city of Cincinnati. Because I remember growing up in Kentucky, what a huge deal it was that Peter Edward Rose was coming home to be player manager. And of course, Pete was your manager for 4 years in Cincinnati. What was it like when Pete came back, and what was it like playing and pitching for Pete for those years?
Well, as a kid growing up, you always, I watched Pete Rose play, and Dave Concepcion was my shortstop, and I watched him play, and Tony Perez was a teammate. So these guys were part of the Big Red Machine as me growing up to watching these guys, and now playing for Pete Rose as a player manager. It was kind of weird at first because Pete would play first base, and he wasn't allowed to come into the pitching mound to talk to you because that would be considered a trip. And in Cincinnati, as you know, the first base dugout was near first base. And the bullpen guys would stay at the end of the dugout. And if the game got kind of antsy and close, Pete would look into the dugout and pick 2 guys out and say, go warm up. And the pitching coach at the time was Scott Breeden. And he would look down and say, what are you guys doing? And we would point to Pete saying, Pete told us to get up. So it was kind of fun playing for Pete. I mean, he had 2 rules: play be on time and play hard. Those were his rules. And if you didn't play hard, he'd let you know.
What was it like for the team? And I don't want to get into the whole thing. I'm a huge Pete Rose guy. I think Pete should be in the Hall of Fame, personally. But what was it like for you guys as players when all of the baseball news became wrapped up in Bart Giamatti and Pete Rose and the investigation? And of course, the way that we know that it all culminated in August of '88. Was that a big distraction for you guys just trying to play baseball?
I think it was a little distraction. I think Pete did a great job trying to keep everything away from us. When you had all these reporters following us everywhere we went and asking us the same questions day in and day out, and basically we really knew nothing that was going on until it was reported that there were these allegations about Pete. But we just did. We come to the ballpark and play hard, and Pete took care of the rest. Managing the team and doing what he had to do and keep all the extra BS away from us.
So, John, you end up in New York, and obviously you're considered a New York Mets all-time great. You're a former team captain. You're synonymous with the Mets. The only reason I'm starting with the Reds is because I have those fond Reds memories growing up. How big of a deal was it to you to come back to Queens, where you went to college? You were, born and raised in Brooklyn, just a New York guy. How much did it mean to you to become a Met and get to come back to your hometown?
Well, first, I owe a lot to the Los Angeles Dodgers for giving me the opportunity to play pro ball. And I think the best thing that happened to me was playing my first 6 years in Cincinnati to form a foundation on how to be a big league player. One of my guys that I was real close with and my mentors was Tom Hume, who pitched in Cincinnati. I used to sit next to him on the bus, sit next to him on the plane, see how he acted, talked with him. He taught me how to act as a professional athlete on the field and off the field. He was a gadget guy on the plane. He'd go to Radio Shack and buy these old little gadgets. He had a party in his house in Sarasota during spring training. He taught me how to shuck oysters. And I saw a Roll Age Relief Award trophy in his house. And I said, well, that's great. And he told me, one day you're going to win one or two of these. So I owe a lot to Tommy Hume. But getting back to your question about coming to New York, it was great because that winter I had a call from the GM from the Mets of Cincinnati and offered me a 3-year contract and wanted to know what I wanted. And I said, I haven't really thought about it. I haven't talked to my agent about it. And, I'll get back to you. And this was like in November. And then they had called me and said that, Lou Piniella was the manager and he wanted to meet with you and talk with you. And I said, fine. And then the following week was the winter meetings. And there was some talks in the papers here in New York City that I might be getting traded to the Yankees. And, so be it. If I got traded to the Yankees, I was still coming home to New York. But then when the winter meeting started and I got a phone call from our GM and saying that you've been traded to New York. So I just assumed it was the Yankees because they didn't say the Mets. He just said, you've been traded to New York. So I said, okay, and hung up the phone and then talking to my wife, Rose, I said, I think I got traded to the Yankees. And like 5 minutes later, Joe McIlvaine, who was the general manager of the Mets at the time, called me and said, hey, we just traded for you. And I was like, wait a minute now, this is a little confusing here. So it was really great because I grew up a Met fan. My brother's a Met fan. I grew up loving the '69 Mets, Tom Seaver and Tug McGraw, and that whole team were my favorite players. And then Marge Schott had called and telling me that, hey, honey, I don't even think she knew my first name. She just called everybody honey. I put her on the phone with my wife, Rose, and she had a conversation with Rose for a while. But once I realized I got traded, it was great. We had a nice big party in my house, and the rest is history. I had a great, 15 years here in New York, a great run.
John, I've always thought that being a closer is one of the absolute most difficult assignments for anybody to have in sports. It's almost like an NFL kicker in a way, except for the goalposts aren't holding a bat and they can't do something to you even if you execute a perfect pitch. And you did it in New York. And you
Yeah.
did it in New York successfully for a very long time. We've seen what's happened to poor Devin Williams this year with the Yankees. This is a guy
Yeah.
who came in this year, 183 career ERA. He lost the closer job. He got it back. He lost it again. His name is a 4-letter word to a lot of Yankees fans now.
I've had that
It is
4-letter word to me too. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unforgiving thing, right? Because, I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can save 15 games in a row, but if you have a couple of blown saves over a week and a half, suddenly, what's wrong with Franco? Or, as
Yeah.
the case may be. What was the mentality of it like? Because obviously you were a great pitcher, but
Yeah.
not everybody is cut out between the ears to handle it. What was that like for you?
Well, I have to tell you, you made a good comparison to the field goal kicker, because I always tell people closers are like field goal kickers, right? The field goal kicker will make 15 in a row. It's the one that he misses. That's what's the one that everybody will talk about. And it's the same thing with a closer. You'll save 15, 20 in a row, whatever it may be. And the one save that you blow, they'll start talking about that a lot. So I think it takes a special person to play here in New York. I've been in the presence of a bunch of great players who are free agents, and I try to talk them into coming to New York. And basically, they didn't want to come here. They didn't want to deal with the media. Coming from Cincinnati, we had 2 newspapers and maybe 3 television stations and a radio station. When you come to New York, you got 15, 20 writers. You got columnists. You got 7, 8 stations. So it's a little bit different. But I think the mentality you got to have is have the short-term memory. And one of the best advices that I got was from Jim Cott, who was the pitching coach for the Reds one year. And if I had a bad outing, he'd come up to me and he'd put his arm around me and he'd point up to the sun and he said, "Look, the sun came up today. It's a new day. Turn the page." So you got to have a short-term memory, some thick skin. Try not to pay too much attention to the newspapers and listen to talk radio, because that could drive you crazy. I'm sure I'm very fortunate that we didn't have social media back in the day, but you just got to take one day at a time. And I always said that I'm going to have more good days than bad days.
What was your thought as you were coming out of the bullpen? Big situations, playoffs, coming down the stretch. What's going through your mind as you're taking that ball? Because, for guys like me, we grow up playing the World Series in our backyard, and I've made a lot of clutch hits and clutch pitches in my imagination, but to be called to do it in front of 50,000 people, can you explain to just a regular fan what that experience is like?
The thought going through my mind was, don't F up. That's for sure. Don't F up. Just don't try to do anything different. Just treat it as any other game. Obviously, there's a little bit more on the line when it's the playoffs and World Series. But I think guys, getting back to with Devin Williams, right? I think guys, when they come here to New York, they try to do too much and do things that they're not used to doing, and they're trying too hard. I mean, the Mets have a kid named Halsley right now. They got from St. Louis, who's really struggling, and he was one of the best relief pitchers in baseball the last couple of years. So I think, when you come here, you got to stay focused. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to go outside your box. Stay within yourself. It's when guys try to do too much, that's when they get hurt.
John, you said Tom Hume. You were eyeing up Tom Hume's Rolaids Relief Man Award. He said that you would win a couple, and you did. And the Rolaids Relief Man Award is one of the better looking awards in my opinion. Where
Right.
do you keep those? I hope that you have those on display somewhere.
Yeah, well, I had a nice big house in one of the boroughs out here, and I just moved to the city. Well, I didn't just move to the city. I moved to the city about 20 years ago. So I have as you can see, the backdrop, I live a block away from the Freedom Tower. So I have a nice big condo that I'm in. But I have them stored away in some storage in New York City and in Brooklyn, where I grew up. Eventually, I'm going to be putting them in my summer home. A nice display. So I have a couple of Rolaids, obviously, and then I have a Fireman of the Year award, another big trophy with the fireman hat. So I have them stored away hopefully for my son and my daughter. I have a grandson now, so they'll keep it in the family tradition. If and one day when I'm long gone, they'll have a display and show this was Grandpa's one of the top relief pitchers in baseball. This is one of the awards that he won, and it's just a good feeling. I mean, coming from Brooklyn as a small kid, small guy. I'm 5'10", 5'9", 180 pounds, and pitching for so long. I owe a lot of credit to a lot of people who helped me along the way, but a lot of awards, a couple of All-Star games, and the only thing I don't have is the World Series rings. I got 3 second-place finish rings, National League championships. When I did later on in my career, I was with Houston, and we lost to the White Sox in the World Series, so I got a runner-up ring. But it's a great career. I had a great time, great run.
Well, John, I've got to ask you. I was given your resume a little bit when I was introducing you. 21 years in the big leagues. You hold the record for the most games pitched in the National League. You're 7th all-time on the all-time saves list, 424 saves. And among the guys who are in the top 20, I believe it is, in most saves all time, the only ones that have more innings pitched than you are Mariano Rivera and Lee Smith and Dennis Eckersley, but that's because he was a starter. We'll put Dennis in a different bucket. You threw a lot of innings in your career, over 1,200 innings pitched compared to some of the other elite guys on the saves list. Does the Hall of Fame, do you ever allow that to creep into your mind? Because if I were on a committee, you certainly would have my vote.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I truly believe that I do belong in the Hall of Fame. Billy Wagner just got in the Hall of Fame, and he's number 2. And I'm the number 1 lefty all time, and Billy's number 2. So I have 2 more saves than him. My ERA is below 3. It's a 2.8. As you said, all the innings, all the appearances. I pitched during the steroid era and the live ball era. I truly believe that I belong in the Hall of Fame. Now the only way I can get in probably is through the Veterans Committee or whatever committees that they have to vote a guy in. And I think, with Billy getting in, maybe it'll open the door for me to get in the future. So, when you're on the ballot, at the time when I was on the ballot in 2010, I believe, I was number 2 in saves. So, and I only got 4.8% of the vote. And I had a writer from New York call me and told me that he didn't vote for me because he didn't believe in the save statistic. So I just told him, why are you even calling me to tell me that? Not in those words, but that's what I basically told him. But I truly believe that I belong in there. I'm in every Hall of Fame except for the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Cincinnati Red Hall of Fame. So maybe one day I'll get into both of them.
Somebody needs to call someone in Cincinnati because you're certainly over that threshold as well. We got to talk to some of these Hall of Fame people. John, such a pleasure getting to talk to you, getting to pick your brain a little bit about the art of relief pitching, and I really appreciate you making some time for us today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's not everybody that could be a relief pitcher. The one thing about being a closer is when you look over your shoulder, there's nobody behind you. When you're the setup man, you have that closer, so somebody's got your back. So you're basically working with no net and nobody to help you. The game is yours. But like I said, I had more good than bad. I appreciate you having me on. Maybe by me coming on your show, that'll open up some eyes of some of these voters for the Hall of Fame. And down the road, I'll get in there.
Absolutely. It would certainly be well-deserved. I think in time you're definitely going to get in, is because there was such a bias against relief pitchers for a long time. I think every time a relief pitcher gets in, there's, you look at John Franco there, you look at your numbers, you're like, you can't be denied.
Yeah, I agree.
In time.
I totally agree. Back in the day when I was eligible for the Hall of Fame, that they weren't really crazy about relief pitchers going in. But the game has changed so much. It's more geared toward the bullpen and relievers now that the game has changed so much. You have to start letting the relievers in the Hall of Fame, and which I'm happy they are. I'm glad Lee Smith got in. I'm glad Billy got in. Obviously Mariano and Trevor Hoffman and the guys before them and Eckersley and Suter. So there's still hopefully a couple more guys will get in, and I'll be one of those guys.
All right. Well, I've got close to 800,000 followers on X.
Well, let's
I
go,
might
Ricky.
bang
Let's
the
go.
drum
Let's
for
get it
you
going,
a
man.
little bit. Yeah. You got
Let's
an
get it
ally,
going.
John, is what I'm telling you. Yeah, we'll bang the drum for you a little bit. You and
All
Dale
right, all
Murphy
right.
are going to be my pet causes here. All right. All right. Hey, John, appreciate you so much, man. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you. And you got a great show, and keep up the great work, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. What a fun conversation that was with John Franco. And I think that we just formed an alliance there in the final moments of that interview because, as many of you know, I beat the drum for Dick Allen and Dave Parker for a long time. I continue to keep saying that Dale Murphy not being in the Hall of Fame is an injustice. And I think I got to add John Franco to the list. I'm going to tweet out about this later today when I post the interview. We got to get John Franco in the Hall of Fame. Now that we recognize that relief pitchers are going to be selected and it's not some barrier that people were afraid to cross by voting for a relief pitcher. And there's one Hall of Famer here, and man, I remember Dan Quisenberry as being just every bit as good as Bruce Sutter. He was better some years. Super sky point to Dan Quisenberry there. But can we please do the right thing culturally and start calling relief pitchers firemen again? Would anybody be against this? Ron, would you be against it if we just widely started referring to these guys as firemen?
My seal of approval. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would be a lot better. So, Ron, when I'm talking about great relief pitchers, who comes to mind for you? Who was your guy to work the ninth inning if you had to come up with one?
The first name that came to my mind when I saw that this was the topic today was Lee Smith.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Lee Arthur Smith, the big man. I had an opportunity to meet Lee Smith at a sports memorabilia show here a number of years ago. And I was walking around and he was at a table not where everybody else was. He was at a table that was just among people set up selling their baseball cards and stuff. And I turn around and I do a double take and they had baseballs there and he was signing balls. And so I bought one, got him to sign it, and he put all kinds of inscriptions on it. It's inscribed. It's one of the coolest autographed balls I have because whoever the guy was with him. He's like, yeah, he'll give you more inscriptions. So I'm like, I don't know. Can you put your Rolaids Relief Man years on there? So he added that to the ball. But I will tell you this, when I shook hands with Lee Smith, very, very nice guy, by the way. But when I shook hands with Lee Smith, I don't know that I have ever put my hand into a larger mitt on anybody. And I've met Artis Gilmore and, I've met some big guys. But Lee Smith's hands, I don't even know how he threw the ball. It would have been like you or me throwing a golf ball, Ron. I mean, I know big hands are an advantage for a pitcher, but my God, did that guy have some paws on him. Let's take a look at the poll replies here today, shall we, folks? See what Super 70s Nation has to say about this close one that we got here. I'm not ready, even at 4,400 votes, I'm not ready to declare this over, but bullpen carts are going to need to get some votes pouring in pretty soon here. Let's see what folks are saying. I got to believe that my bullpen cart aficionados are going to be coming out in the comments. Jim Kaiser, the poet laureate of Super 70, says, I'd ride bullpen carts to Blockbuster with a slice, listening to Wood. Very, very nicely done, Jim. Landon Noland, who's always good for some quality comments, says you get out of school on Friday and hope that you can convince your mom to let you get 2 games in a movie instead of 1 and 1. And then hope like crazy you didn't pick shitty ones. That's the truth. Nothing like getting a movie or a game home and then realizing that it blows. Then what were you going to do then? Gregory G for America says, clarification, only if we're talking about these sweet bastards, correct? Look at the Yankees there, man. I'm telling you, the Mets and the Dodgers, that's strong. When I say bullpen cart, I'm thinking about what the Mets and the Dodgers are doing here, but man, ain't that New York? The guy who's driving that, his first name has to be Sal. I refuse to believe that his first name is anything other than Sal. All right, Ronnie, I appreciate you as always, my buddy. My thanks to the great John Franco for joining me for an interview that I enjoyed very much today. My thanks as well to Molly and Colin in Nashville, to P.A. Jarrett, and the best producer in the business. He is, of course, producer Tim. But most of all, as always, I thank you, you sweet bastards, because you're the reason that we do this. You're the reason this is so much fun, and I love you. You can find us, as always, at Fox Nation, outkick.com, and on YouTube. The Ricky Cobb Show is the name of our new channel, so head over and subscribe, won't you? You can find us in podcast form on both Apple and Spotify, and you can also find our content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as well as X, where you will find me at Super 70 Sports, tweeting away all day, every day. Drop by and pay me a visit. I get a little lonely when you don't. And most of all, let's make a deal that we'll meet right back here again tomorrow when we will tee it high and let it fly with another episode of The Ricky Cobb Show.